Picture this. It's 1958. A devastating plane crash tragically takes the lives of 8 Manchester United players, literally wiping out one of the most promising squads English football had ever seen. But then, exactly 10 years later, this very same club rises from the ashes to become the first English team to ever win the European Cup. It's an unbelievable story of profound tragedy followed by just unparalleled triumph. Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to ask a pretty wild question. What kind of numerical blueprint could possibly explain a comeback like that?
I mean, really think about that timeline for a second. To go from the utter, heartbreaking devastation of the Munich air disaster straight to the absolute pinnacle of European sports in exactly 1 decade, that requires way more than just sheer willpower. So today, we're unraveling a central mystery. We're investigating whether a hidden foundational pattern, like an actual numerical identity, has been quietly driving this legendary club through its most extreme highs and lowest lows.
Now, to actually understand this blueprint, we first need to quickly trace their verified milestones. So let's start at the beginning. 1878, they're founded as Newton Heath LYR by a group of railway workers. Fast forward to 1902, they're rescued from near extinction and officially renamed Manchester United, moving into Old Trafford by 1910. Then, of course, comes the devastating tragedy of February 1958, decimating Matt Busby's legendary team at Munich. But like we said, exactly a decade later in 1968, they become the first English club to lift the European Cup. Fast forward again to the Alex Ferguson era. By 1993, they finally end an agonizing 26-year wait for a top-flight title. And then 1999, bam, they hit the historic treble. Even after the Glazer family's controversial buyout in 2005, they push through and win the Champions League again in 2008. Ferguson eventually retires in 2013 after an unmatched 38 trophies, which, leads into a pretty marked on-field decline. That is until Sir Jim Ratcliffe's arrival in 2023 essentially kicks off a whole new era.
During those insane peaks, especially throughout the 1990s, the club really exhibited this incredibly unique psychological profile. David Beckham actually hit the nail on the head when talking about the synergy of the famous class of '92. He said, "There was not one piece of jealousy between any of us. We all had each other's back." I mean, that's it right there. This wasn't just about raw talent on the pitch. It was this profound, unified spirit built on fierce self-confidence and absolute loyalty. And that proved absolutely critical to their success. Okay, let's dive right into this using the Dams-Nums framework so we can actually see the blueprint hiding right beneath the surface. We've got to start with the club's exact founding date, March 5th, 1878. When you analyze this date, it uncovers their fundamental mathematical identity. As it turns out, Manchester United is a founding number 5. More specifically, their core character is an 865 and they walk life path number 5.
So what exactly does it mean to be a life path 5? Well, in this system, it's known as Earth, the free spirit. It's an archetype characterized by freedom, intense enthusiasm, and critically, this is the big one, learning through overcoming repeated obstacles from within. And honestly, this trait maps perfectly onto their verified real-world history. Just think about it. Their gritty survival through that 1902 near collapse, the incredibly agonizing rebuild after the 1958 Munich crash, and even the relentless driving force of the Ferguson era, where they constantly had to reinvent themselves to stay on top. Their entire foundational blueprint is literally built around facing massive, existential challenges and just forging ahead with unyielding energy.
Now, what's really interesting here is when we move from those broad character traits into the highly specific formula for their dominance. Because in this framework, every entity has a unique numerical configuration. Right now, we're looking at their success code. It's basically a specific combination of numbers that acts as a symbolic reminder of power, purpose, and overall direction for the organization.
And for Manchester United, that core combo is 53651. This specific combination holds some seriously intense energy. It reflects a laser focus that can basically hit any target once it's locked in. And when we tie this 53651 code back to their history, the resonance is actually uncanny. I mean, this is the exact energy of that 1968 European Cup win, achieving the ultimate impossible redemption exactly 10 years after Munich. And it's that exact same compounding energy that fueled the legendary 1999 treble. It's quite literally the code for achieving the impossible when the pressure is at its absolute highest.
Let's move to the visual and see how this energy actually builds over time. What we're checking out now is the actual Dams-Nums life graph, which meticulously traces the club's rising and falling energy curve all the way from 1878. Notice how the graph opens with this really consistent energy. We can track it right from their origins, over to the 1902 rescue, and then, wow, down to the absolute sharpest dip on the graph in 1958, right at Munich. But then look how it rises sharply again to that massive redemptive peak in 1968. You can literally see the curve building with sustained momentum.
And that momentum just keeps going. Check this out. At 113 years old, right in 1991, they hit a mathematical lowest point. But instead of breaking them, this acted like a giant slingshot straight into their first Premier League title in 1993 and then right into the historic treble in 1999. As the mathematical energy climbs into 2002, we enter the undisputed dominant Ferguson era, pushing right through major structural shifts like the 2005 Glazer takeover. Mathematically speaking, their peak energy hits at age 139, which was in 2017. And following that peak, the arc begins a natural descent, which perfectly aligns with their post-Ferguson on-pitch decline. This actually places the club below the soul line in 2022, right on the eve of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's 2023 arrival, which, looking at this, represents a massive potential turning point for the franchise.
So, the crucial point we really need to take away here is that United's dominance isn't just history. It's a blueprint. When we pull all this together, the number 5's natural resilience, the 53651 success code's thread of redemption through tragedy, and the life graph's distinct collapse, rebuild, and decline shape, we get a remarkably complete picture. Resilience, redemption, rebuild. This is a club fundamentally hardwired to take a decade of unthinkable grief and turn it into an unmatched decade of pure dominance.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you reflecting on this one overarching theme. Every entity has a pattern. Because even in the incredibly unpredictable, entirely chaotic world of sports history, where a single penalty kick or a sudden, heartbreaking tragedy can literally change everything in an instant, a structural, mathematical pattern might just exist right beneath the surface. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Does this numerical blueprint change how you view the triumphs, the heartbreaks, and even the future of legendary institutions like Manchester United? It's definitely something to chew on. Thanks so much for diving into this with us today, and hey, always keep looking for the patterns.